I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. Why do so many successful people still feel disconnected, anxious, or unfulfilled? In this episode, physicist, entrepreneur, and author Randy Lyman joins me for a fascinating conversation about emotional healing, quantum physics, spirituality, and the law of attraction. After building multiple successful businesses, Randy realized that unresolved emotions may shape far more of our lives than we realize, including our leadership, relationships, and sense of fulfillment. So whether you're deeply spiritual, highly skeptical, or a leader just trying to build a healthier culture inside your business, this conversation will challenge the way you think about success, healing, and human potential. Well, Randy, it's great to have you on the show from beautiful downtown Sedona, Arizona, which I know there really is no downtown other than maybe Tlaquepaque for those of you who've been there. By the way, have you ever been to a restaurant called Renee?
I have not been to Renee. Renee is a really nice restaurant, but for whatever reason, I haven't been drawn to be there yet.
Well, my wife and I, when we were dating, this was a few moons ago, and our first kind of restaurant that we ever tried in Sedona was Renee, and we just fell in love with it. And so we've been back, 34 years later, and the place just kills it. It's a great French place, and it's right there in Tlaquepaque. It is gorgeous. Anyway, we're not here to talk about restaurant reviews, but I do want to set the table, so to speak, about your history to lead us into this conversation. You, according to your bio, have been a serial entrepreneur. You've been able to, I'm assuming, do quite well for yourself. Can you give us a little bit of background that leads us into this conversation? I hear things like Physicist. I hear some stuff like you've bought and sold companies. Give us a little bit more detail about that.
Well, if I go back 36 years ago, at 28 years old, I was educated as a physicist and a mechanical engineer, and since then I have multiple patents, and I've owned businesses. I've been self-employed since 1982. Well, in 1989, I met a woman by the name of Maria, and we spent 3 years together as romantic partners, and she had been immersed in spirituality. And she introduced me to the unseen component of the human experience, which is, to me, spirituality, the connection with something bigger than ourselves, and emotions. And up until then, I had shut off my emotions in order to be more focused on my thoughts and my actions to find success. And I found success. I had multiple million-dollar companies, but once I was able to understand that we're all emotional, work through some of my own emotional trauma and find some healing and clarity, and then take what I was learning through my own personal experiences and incorporate it in my businesses. And then my businesses grew 30 times what they were from just a left brain approach. So once I became more balanced, my life became better, my businesses grew, and my entire strategy about life changed.
So a lot of things you said there to unpack. You obviously have had the trappings of what a lot of people would call very successful experiences. You've got a beautiful place there in Sedona. You've done probably quite well for yourself financially. And some would say, that's it. That's what we all want to go for. But you're saying, no, that's not enough. There's a great scene, if you haven't seen it, in a Taylor Sheridan series called The Madison, where the two brothers have just come back from fly fishing and they're sitting down and one of them says to the other, yeah, we just came back from a vacation where we were spending $10,000 a night in this beautiful resort. And we were watching this older couple walk across the sand. And the thought that this character was saying is they worked their whole life to get here, but now they were too old to really enjoy it. And so there's something about your story about realizing there was more to life than simply the financial success, which is not obviously it's a wonderful thing. But you found much more about that. Aside from Maria, um, which I want to break into song, the what was the moment that kind of flipped you into this new pathway? You mentioned some, emotional history. What were you cleaning up? What were you trying to resolve for yourself?
So I had a lot of anger, which is really a cover up for feelings of abandonment, betrayal, and loneliness. So Maria held the space where I was able to get through my anger, become in touch with the underlying emotions and work through some of that. But about 2 years into our relationship, in about 1991, I went to a 4-day business communication retreat. And on the third day, we were going through an exercise and I had this big emotional breakthrough. And I talk about this in my book, The Third Element. And once I went through that emotional breakthrough, it was around me trying to be competent to get my family's approval from something that was said 12 years earlier. And in my business life and in my personal life at that point in time, I had 6 different people who were completely incompetent. It was driving me nuts. And Maria said, everything's a mirror. Look at yourself. So I was looking at my thoughts and I was looking at my actions. And for a couple months, it wouldn't fix the problem. I have this big emotional release at this retreat. I go back to work 4 days later, and the people in my life who previously were incompetent suddenly either became competent or they left my life. And because I'm a physicist, I'm a scientist, I look at cause and effect. The cause was my personal huge emotional release, and the effect was it solved the problem I could not solve with my mind and with my actions. And I said, there's something here to the law of attraction and our emotions.
Understood. So you mentioned the law of attraction, and for those of you, that's a very big subject in this space, and you're probably aware of people like Abraham Hicks and all the others, Joe Dispenza and Eckhart Tolle, and I've seen that you've been big fans of theirs as well. I think that sometimes people have had some confusion about the law of attraction, and maybe on one hand you can explain it because you've got this physicist scientific background. So before I start piling on a bunch of other questions on top of that, because my mind is beginning to go off and see so many different connections, could you explain in layman terms what the law of attraction is, pulling into the scientific history that you have?
Okay. I'll make it as brief as I can. In the book, I explain it at length, but right now I would say the law of attraction says things that are similar to each other are drawn to each other. Now, in science, we learn that opposites attract through current, electrical current, and electromagnetics. Then opposites attract. But in every other part of physics, it really comes down to harmonic resonance. When things resonate at a similar frequency, then they feel each other. They're attracted to each other. That's what quantum physics research is all about right now. So things that are alike are attracted to each other. And if we just jump right into quantum physics and what's being studied today. Now, I've been aware of this for some time, and this goes back to 1927 to 2 different experiments, 2 different discoveries. One was the double slit experiment, where
I knew you were going to get there.
Yeah, the double slit is great because they're firing individual electrons or individual photons through 2 slits at a photographic target, and it's all covered. And they look at the results and they say, okay, did this one packet of energy go through these 2 independent slits? Did it go through as one packet of energy or as a particle? So when nobody's watching, the lid's on the cover, they run the experiment, and it gives on the target, which is a photographic target, it gives a wave pattern. So, energy is just a wave. It's all a wave. So then they take the cover off and they run the experiment, and somebody's only watching with their eyes. Nobody's touching this, only observing. And suddenly these wave packets of energy act like particles. And now the impact on the target, on the photographic target, are particles. Like, what the heck? We didn't touch this. We only observed. And through observation, energy is called into matter. And in the same year, 1927, unrelated.
So let me just pause on that just a second.
Please.
This is a really important piece that you just mentioned because it's one of the foundational, I think, tenets of what you're trying to say about the law of attraction is that the observer change the results of the experiment.
Yes, the observation. So energy only becomes matter when it is observed or when it is called into action in the present moment. Back to Eckhart Tolle, but we're going to expand on what Eckhart says. What we experience is our physical body in the physical world right now. I can't feel my body from yesterday. I can't cook on yesterday's hot stove. I'm here right now in this present moment in my body. Now, my thinking mind is never in the present moment. It's thinking about the past. It's thinking about the future. It's a stream of thought. Emotions, there's only three components: body, the mind, and emotions. Emotions are bigger than time and space, and they do not have to follow the laws of physics, the laws of time, or the laws of space. Emotional energy is all on its own. So,
Okay. So, all
go
right.
ahead.
That's really interesting. So go ahead. Keep going. I've got some follow-up thoughts on that.
And so what we experience is in the present moment through our physical body in the way that energy, it's all just energy. This is all an illusion. This is all a matrix in a way. This is all a computer simulation. I experience in the moment what the law of attraction co-creates for me based on the resonance with my thoughts, resonance with my physical body, which is real obvious, and then resonance with my emotions, which are bigger than time and space. So if I have unhealed emotions from 2 days ago or 30 years ago, that energy that I didn't feel completely, that was a valid guidance system in the moment, started moments past. It's no longer valid for my guidance, like some people say. I disagree with that. But that energy is like gasoline. It's stored in a metal can and it's there to be experienced. And we pour out and we access that old emotional energy. It burns like gasoline will. But also, once we burn it off and let it go, it's gone. So law of attraction says, I hear your thoughts. If you go back to Think and Grow Rich and a lot of Wallace Wattles and things from 100 years ago, our thoughts are going to create situations and relationships and affect our physical reality, our physical body. We know what we do with our body. That's obvious. I walk into another room. I've manifested being in another room. That's real obvious. But the one that's the most powerful, the one I really became clear on back in 1991 is what we have not felt in an emotional experience through our physical body, which is how we experience our emotions through hormones and dopamine and all those other things. If I didn't feel it completely and I squashed it, I said, I don't want to feel this right now. Consciously or unconsciously, I shut off that emotion coming through me. Now that energy is trapped in my field. And some people say it's in the body, it's in my energy field in a way I can't explain. But I can tell you through thousands of experiences, that energy is waiting for us to feel it and release it. So if I have a pain from 20 years ago, the law of attraction says, God, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, says, I love you and I want you to release that pain. So I'm going to remind you of the pain and I'm going to bring chaos and pain into your life today. And if you don't understand the connection, it's just random pain and chaos in my life today. But if I understand that any irritation in my life today is a gift, I'll say the word twice, is a gift to remind us of what we have the opportunity to heal. Now I make the connection. Oh, this person cut me off in traffic. Oh, in the 8th grade, I was sitting next to a girl I had a crush on, and I'm talking and somebody cut me off and I'm embarrassed. And I didn't want to feel that. I'm in the 8th grade. I'm going to be tough now. I'm a man. Okay. And so I shut off the emotion of feeling embarrassed, and that's trapped within me. And the law of attraction, which is really the only way God interacts with us other than love wins. God says, you're going to experience yourself mirrored back to you, and says, but I don't want you to feel this pain anymore. So I'm going to bring up situations in your life today that link back to this emotional pain you've been carrying in the hopes that you'll understand the connection and release the pain of these old emotional wounds. Now, I put a lot in there, but
yeah, you did. You did.
So God only has two rules, which is love wins. When we look at any problem and we say, I want a solution, and I'm looking at it from a place of love and caring, I can find a lasting solution. If I look at a problem from a place of fear, I will never find a lasting solution. So love wins. And then the source has no judgment and no expectations. We get free will. So go do whatever you want. God says, I'm bored. You go do whatever you want. And through you, I'm going to have these new experiences. But here's the rule. The other rule is I'm going to mirror back the vibration of your thoughts. I'm going to mirror back the vibrational frequency and what's in harmony with your body. And I'm going to mirror back your emotions from today and from the past until they're experienced completely.
All right. So I love it. Okay. So then what, my friend Randy, is the purpose of the emotion in the first place? Why are we here in this time and space and these sentient beings that we are to experience emotions? What is the purpose behind having an emotion?
So it
Since
is
this
the
plays
deepest
such a
experience.
huge part of this model.
Yeah, I get it. And your question is great because nobody's ever really asked me this way before. And I'm getting something right now that's really clear. A lot of this comes through me. It's bigger than me. So we are spiritual beings. The only way for us to connect with something larger than us that's unseen, whether it's our loved ones, whether it's people we work with, whether it's a level of God and source itself, is only through the feeling in our body that is emotion, that is an emotional feeling. It's a sensation. Yes, I can see, I can hear, I can touch, and I can do all those things. But when I have a sensation in my body, it's a connection to something bigger than myself. And the universe said, oh, in addition to connecting with all that is through your emotions, we're also going to use that as a guidance system that's valid in the moment. So I have an experience and my mind says, this was great. And I have a happy emotion. It says, go towards this. Let's have more of this. The opposite of that is I have an experience. I burn my hand on the stove. Somebody says something mean, and I have an emotional reaction based on the story that my mind makes up. And I have this feeling of this doesn't feel good. I have an emotional feeling sensation in my body that says, move away from this. Now, if I am a lizard or a bird or a dog or a cat, this guidance system is really all that I have. Yes, I can think, but the biggest guidance system that we had as we were developing as humans, the instinctual part of us that's still human, is all based on emotions that give us a sensation in our body. And so
Okay,
the three
so
components. Go ahead.
so I'm thinking that emotion is also the construct for contrast and for creativity, that without emotion, there is no contrast. There's nothing to push against. I mean, creativity is forging thoughts and ideas, and emotion is sort of the backdrop that allows us to
The
be
strongest driver.
intentional.
It is the
Oh, and to
strongest driver because we can think our way through trouble and that's easy. We'll just turn off our mind and change our mind. But
right.
if it's emotional, we can't think our way through emotions. Emotions are so strong. They're going to drive us to action that either releases the emotion and or changes the situation that needs to be changed. So emotions are the strongest drivers in our human experience.
So does the soul, when it goes back to the all that is, whatever you want to call that,
Yes.
experience emotion?
It is emotion. It's the only way we experience all that is
No,
through
does
emotions.
the soul though? Once we evolve, let's go way out, right? Let's go way out.
Yeah.
We've returned to source. Do we
Yes.
experience emotion at that level?
We experience a mix of thought and emotion all as one. We're no longer experiencing the third component of the physical, but
Sure.
our thoughts are directly connected to our emotions. There's no need for separation like there is here in the physical world. So when we think something, we feel it. When we feel something, we have thoughts about it, and the two mix back together again. And they are one because through emotions, we connect with 0 point energy of all that is. Through our thoughts, we're independent. And we can access the thoughts of the mind of God, so to speak. But in order to connect with all that is, we can only do that through what people today call 0 point energy, the center of our heart, which is connected to all that is. Emotionally, we connect to all that is because emotions are also not only bigger than time and space, they're faster than the speed of light, and they touch all of time from the beginning to forever.
Is this a remembrance of what we already have? Or
It
is this
can be,
a
it's the only path.
vehicle? Right. Or is this a vehicle to get to something? Like I
It's a
sometimes
vehicle. It's the
think,
only path to all that ever has been and all that ever will be. And our mind can see that, but we can only truly access that when we are grounded in the moment and in touch with our emotions.
This is the key. I guess what I'm getting to is like, is that process there to help us remember what we already have? Or is that process to get us to something that we don't have that we can claim?
So the ego, we're human beings. I mean, human ego. We have to have an ego. We don't want to kill it. We have our own personality. That's what God wants us to do: is have our own desires, have our own will, have our own experiences, and we're each unique with our personality. That's our ego. That's what we're here to be. But we're also here to remember that we are from Source. So we are,
And so that never changes.
but the mix changes. So when we first drop down, say it takes 1,000 lifetimes to find our way back to Source. So we drop down the first lifetime. Okay, where's the food and water and shelter? How do I just survive? I don't care about the bigger picture, because that's not part of the plan. And I go through hundreds of lifetimes. I'm an infant soul. And then I learned some skill sets. I learned to get along with people. I learned that power and wealth and money isn't happiness. I learned that being tied to large groups of people doesn't necessarily bring me happiness. And then I become an older soul. And then I have more of the component that's growing with me of the spiritual being of, hey, there's a bigger part of us. And that's the emotional part. And that's the more positive experiences of being emotional and tying into our heart chakra and the physical experience that ties in through our heart chakra to all that is.
Okay. So this is a paradox that I think sometimes people have a hard time with. The law of attraction basically says that whatever you think and feel, you attract more of that of. There's also this idea that if I have some emotions from my past, which needs to be released, I get to re-experience them, but do not I also attract more of what I'm experiencing from the past? I mean, like there's this thought like, I don't want to feel my old crap, the stuff that happened when I was 12, because I'm afraid that if I go back and revisit that, I'm only going to get more of the same. How do you rectify that?
That's a dichotomy. That's a trap. And
truly.
Right. And so that the irony is, and I learned this by being set up by the universe. It said, I want to learn and grow. And the universe said, okay, we're going to find a time and space when you're not ready but the time's right and you're safe. You're going to have this emotional experience. And then the positive is going to come in. Because I thought the same thing. If I deal with my misery and I think about it or I feel it, I'm going to attract more of it. Okay. That energy that I'm releasing is then released. And yes, I went through the experience of thinking about it. That has a resonance. I went through the experience of feeling that energy that I'm releasing. But the key is the emotions become released from our physical body as that, like gasoline, is being burned off and experienced. So yes, I had the negative experience, but that experience, here we go, thermodynamics, physics.
Thank you.
Energy is not created nor destroyed. So I see a problem. My mind makes up a story. My body reacts with hormones and chemicals, and I feel it. And I don't feel it completely. That energy is stored within me like potential energy. Now, gasoline in a can be put into a car. It's in the engine. It's turned into heat, which turns into pressure, which turns into force, which then turns into kinetic energy, motion. And then I hit the brakes and it turns the kinetic energy into heat and it's released. So that energy of a moving car, or say I drive a car up on a hill and I can coast down the hill, potential energy of being on the hill, coasting into kinetic energy. The final action in a car typically is either friction from the air friction or from the tires, but typically it's the brakes. And when the brakes slow down a car and transform that moving energy into heat, it then is what's called in physics thermalized. It's gone. And it no longer has the same ability to cause problems. For example, when my brakes get hot, they cool off in the air, the energy is dissipated, it's gone.
So the analogy, so your analogy about the car represents humans revisiting a past, say, trauma, bad experience. And by doing so, you release that energy, ergo, you've been freed of it. You've been freed from it, right?
That's what the heat, the thermalized, as I feel it in my body. So when I have a physical reaction to emotion, I'm feeling tension, I'm feeling relief, I'm feeling whatever it is through my muscles, through my tissue. I have a physical sensation. If I cry, when I do EFT tapping, I love EFT tapping. In my
Mm.
book, The Third Element, the entire appendix is dedicated to tapping so people can write their own tapping exercises. When I go through tapping, I have physical places on my body I'm tapping. That's a physical release. And a lot of times I'll have like 1 or 2 tears. That energy of that 1 or 2 tears in itself is extremely powerful. And that's the beauty of tears. Tears are the best way to turn old emotional pain into a new energy that is released and outside of ourselves, and we don't have to carry it anymore.
I'm thinking about Woody Allen movies where he's been in therapy for like 2 times a week for 17 years, and it's funny, but there's something that kind of rings true around this idea that if we continue to revisit these things, do we not also continue to attract it? Maybe not in the same way, but through other experiences. You're getting really close to answering this question, so I want to keep poking on this a little bit around this idea of past trauma, past hurt, re-experience, whether it's tapping, whether it's crying, whether it's some sort of a physical expression, you removed it, you've identified it, and that's all fine and good. And at what point does that become an attraction of more of the same?
That's a great question. The reason that addressing our negative emotions doesn't make the situation worse with regards to attracting more negative things into our life, because the negative emotions are there all the time and always interacting with the law of attraction. In the 3-dimensional world, if we place gasoline in a metal can, it doesn't interact with the rest of the world because of that boundary. At the quantum level, where emotions reside, which is bigger than time and space, they're always interacting with the law of attraction. We can't separate our emotional wound energy from the past from the law of attraction until we feel it completely and release it. So people think, as you said, okay, I'm going to think about my negative emotions. Is that going to attract more negative to me? Well, that's only a brief period of time. So again, those emotions, whether we address them or not, they're already there. They're already interacting with the law of attraction. And once we take the time to become aware of them, embrace them, feel them completely, and release them, then they're gone for all time. And then there's no way that that energy can continue to draw negative experiences into our reality. So again, just a brief period of time is all that's necessary if we feel it completely, and then they're gone forever.
But okay, so I've also heard people say, and I've been in this conversation for many years, that emotion itself is one of the strongest ways in which to attract something to you. For example,
And
you
it is.
want something in your life, an aspiration, a house, a relationship. It's one thing to say, I want it, but then to truly feel it, you create a stronger signal to attract that to you. So it's like I'm trying to square this out.
You're
to
doing
say
good. You're
that
bringing it all together. You're saying there's holes in what I'm saying, which there are, because we haven't explained it all yet.
I wonder about
love
this
it.
too, Randy. This is not like I'm agnostic on this. I have a thought about this, and I'm trying to work this out with you.
Okay. So let's say I have a negative emotion, my trauma when my uncle said, I wish you were different. So
Right.
I felt that pain and I didn't want to feel it. So I stuffed it down, and that has 100 units of energy. And that 100 units of energy 12 years later was the same. And that 12 units of unexperienced, at 100 units of unexperienced energy resonates at disapproval and pain.
Okay.
So that's going to attract to me experiences that are painful and emotions that are painful, but they can also trigger the release of what I've been carrying. So my mind, my thinking mind, no matter how much I think about releasing that old negative energy, will not release that energy. Now I go through the emotional experience of burning off that energy. And yes, that is a negative experience. But once the experience is done, that energy of the stored emotion is burned off. It's thermalized and it's out of my space, and it can no longer interact with the law of attraction because it's been transformed from a negative emotion to just heat and tears and whatever. And now it doesn't have the same frequency, and it's no longer associated with me because I've released it. So going through the emotional process is negative, but it happens so quickly when we do it completely and then it's released. And if I want to create something positive, I want to go through a gratitude exercise. I'm really grateful to have the great life I have, to have my health, to have my friends and the people I get to work with. And I start feeling the gratitude around that. And if I feel it completely, it's going to be released. But during the time that I experience those feelings of gratitude and I'm resonating at that, the law of attraction says, I'll bring you more of that. And we can stay in a fluid state, emotional fluid state. We can stay in a place of gratitude without any baggage being created, as long as we are experiencing it. And here's another part I see that I've never seen before that clearly. Emotionally, when we re-experience the pain, we only keep the good. Only love is real. See, in our experience here, it's all illusion, but only love is real. So the positive emotions are real and those last. The negative emotions are not real. They're only for the experience. And because they're not real, they don't last.
But one would argue counter to that. There are models out there talk about brain science, and there's a model called SCARF that David Rock talks about, that human beings are sort of hardwired to see a situation as a negative 5 times more than a positive. And you're sort of saying, no, wait a minute. What's really only real is love, not this other stuff.
Yes, because the rest is just an illusion to find our way back to understanding that we are limited as human beings. And when we connect with the infinite, there are no limits. Now, I've been working on myself for 36 years. I hope I'm halfway through my personal evolution. There's still a lot of things I have to go through. And I have experienced miracles in my life when I no longer need the physical limitations of the 3D reality in order to evolve personally. Then those limitations go away. And I experience miracles in my life every day of the people I meet, the things that synchronistically work out for me, all the beautiful little things that happen to me happen because I no longer need the lesson of thinking negative. I no longer need the lesson in some cases of being held back. And yes, I still have my lessons, but when I don't have a need for a lesson about betrayal, then the world does not betray me anymore. When I don't have a lesson around trust, and I realize trusting people is not useful, trusting myself and my connection with source, and trusting that every experience that I have is going to lead me towards something good. And I get to that place emotionally that I trust enough through my experiences. And after releasing my issues and emotional issues around trust, I'm not betrayed anymore. And so we only get the negative experiences that are necessary for our personal growth through how we change our mindset, or negative experiences that get us in touch with old emotions that we're going to have to release. And I talk about this in chapter 2 of The Third Element, my book. I talked about evil is never any larger than it needs to be for our own lessons. And when we can respond to evil with love, because we've learned our lesson either mentally and or emotionally, the evil loses its energy and it goes away. We are afraid of evil, and evil should be afraid of us, because as we evolve and we respond in love, evil dissolves.
All right. So I'll follow that one. You mentioned the micro of the individual relationship to evil. What is the macro lesson as a species right now going through what's happening? One could argue there's a lot of evil in the world. What are we supposed to learn?
Each of us responds to and in harmonic resonance with that evil for whatever lesson we have. So if there's bombings happen in the Middle East and that's bothering me, I have some sort of emotions around victim and tyrant. That's usually what it comes down to is the victim and the petty tyrant. Our ego picks a side, and our emotions are going to be related to an interpretation we had in the past. And so if I'm feeling like, well, this is wrong, well, I've been wronged in the past and I have not felt my own personal experience, emotional experience about being wronged. If I don't have a personal emotion from the past I'm carrying unconsciously, if what I'm carrying does not vibrate in harmony and in resonance with the global problem, then that global problem doesn't affect me and probably doesn't even come up on my radar. So global problems help people who are involved in them directly have their own experiences, and global problems in the news are there for anybody who needs that external reminder of an internal emotion. So everybody
Okay.
reacts to the news independently based on exactly what they need.
All right. So got it. So I'm tracking with you, brother. If we have the idea that we're all connected, we're
Yes.
not really individual. If you go back to physics, right? We're thinking that we are individual, but we are really part of the whole.
Yes.
Then what is the whole of humanity learning right now?
We're
Do
not
you have a
learning it as a
feeling
whole.
about
We're
that?
not learning it as a whole. We're each learning it individually, and we each contribute to this equation that has 8 billion variables.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. You mentioned earlier, when I go back to the idea that this is all an illusion. This is a matrix, which is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. What did you mean by that? And explain what its ramifications in this conversation.
I talk about this in the book. So people say, well, how do we all cooperate? How do you get 8 billion people to cooperate and we all get exactly what we need from each other? And that there's two components to that. One is we all agree to cooperate at some level, but that's from a soul level. We all are part of the source, and we say we're going to play this game on Earth, and at some level, my soul is going to cooperate. But then what happens is you get all these. Well, how do we get 6 people, for example, to cooperate, or 400 people in a plane crash are all ready to die? And the way that happens is there are an infinite number of possible realities that already exist. And quantum physics talks about this. This is what Heisenberg's uncertainty principle talks about. And Hugh Everett III talked about this in 1957. And this is something that came to me 15 years ago. If there are an infinite number of possible outcomes, all we need to experience is that one possible outcome that gives everybody what they need. So from God's perspective, it all exists. And it is a bell curve in a way, like science says. But if I need something that's a little bit off the center of the curve in order for me to have the painful experience that I need, while somebody else needs to be a tyrant and I'm a victim, and that needs to happen, in God's perspective, in mathematical probability, no matter how small, there is a probable possibility that that can happen. And that's what we are experiencing, is the reality, the version of the matrix. Out of all these different versions that all exist simultaneously, we are experiencing the one that gives us what we need and gives everybody around us what we need. And the others have some energy about them, but that doesn't matter, because our ego, our personality, our physical senses are getting what we need without paying attention to all these other simultaneous realities.
So the matrix that I have, that I'm experiencing, is not the one that you're experiencing.
Okay, you have let's say right now you have 7 high probability, let's say 6 high probability realities. And I have 6 high probability realities. And one of those realities, we're not talking here today. Or in one of those realities, I'm interviewing you. And that reality has energy. That's real. That exists. But you and I, in order to get what our personality needs, are experiencing this reality, while those others coexist without our attention, without our experience. And so right now, I have one reality that is overlapping and matching your reality. And that's what we are focusing on.
Do we as individuals, to the degree one could call us an individual, bounce between different realities? Or do we stay
only like
to
1 billion
one?
times a second.
Only 1 billion times per second?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes, because the reality that we have right now was not real a moment ago. And all this energy that's waiting to play out the reality for us and be solid, where I move my microphone, how I move my mouth, what we experience is not real until we step into it with our thoughts, with our actions, and with our emotions. And suddenly you and I are having this conversation that was waiting for us, but there was a different conversation waiting that we We didn't choose. We chose.
That's almost like a conversation around time, though, even though time could be also said is not real. But I'm talking about almost like universes. And
Yes, multiple
are
universes.
we
There's a
talking about
universe.
separate universes all coexisting at the same time?
Exactly. That is exactly what's happening. There are an infinite number at some level, but there are typically 3 or 4 possibilities. When I drive to town, I could take 2 different routes. And both of me driving one route or the other route, that experience, that potential experience waiting for me to choose it exists. And another part of my soul can choose that other route and have whatever experience it wants. But my ego, my personality only has the senses to experience one physical experience at a time, even though the others are truly real.
Okay. Earlier on, Randy, you said that your business or your businesses tripled or became very successful
30
in some
times.
ways, 30 times more.
Yeah.
And it was right around this.
Businesses.
Yeah, right around this time when you had this, well, my words, not yours, this sort of awakening. What was different about you that you can draw a line to the success of these businesses?
It's real simple. I'll give you the scientific explanation, which is I became more clear and I was no longer an asshole.
So you were no longer an asshole. Okay.
So I got through my own judgments about myself. I got through my own emotional pain. And then I got to see myself at a deeper level. And more importantly, I got to see the people I work with at a deeper level. And I found ways to genuinely see them, to genuinely appreciate them, and to genuinely be touched by helping them find power within themselves and skill sets within themselves they didn't know they had. And they had a different experience within my company because I changed how I interacted with them. I changed what I focused on to create a better environment. And I interacted with them in the way I began to see them, which is beautiful spiritual beings on a human path doing the best they could to take care of themselves and their family. And when I started seeing myself differently, and then I saw them differently, and then I interacted with them differently, then the best version of them showed up at work, and we accomplished so much more together.
Very good. So I'm listening to this. I'm a person driving in my car. I'm hearing this conversation. Aside from reading your book, what advice do you have for people who are participating in this conversation?
2 things. We don't have to do everything perfectly. If I'm making airplanes or medical equipment, yes, I got to do it perfectly. But if I'm talking about personal growth and how I improve myself through emotional healing, how I improve myself through a leader in a leadership position, I don't have to do it perfectly. I'm going to make mistakes. It might be messy, but when I set the intent of I'm going to feel my old emotional trauma and release it, and I start down that path through the intent and taking whatever action I do, whether it's breath work, whether it's working out at the gym, whatever it might be, then the law of attraction is going to hear my intent. The law of attraction is going to watch my actions. And even though I'm not going to know what to do exactly, if I surrender to the process and say, I trust, and I'm willing to make mistakes, then we will be guided to enlightenment through changes in our thought process and our thought patterns. We will be guided to emotional healing in times and spaces that are safe. And we will find people who can help us to understand the experiences we're going through and people who can guide us to deeper experiences. And we can become more expansive human beings when we set our intent and we surrender to something larger than ourselves.
What is the third? Is it the third element, the name of the book?
Third element is the name of the book. And
what is the third element?
There's 3 categories. Again, thought and information. Second, in no particular order, our physical body and the physical world. And then the one that I avoided for so long is our emotions and our feelings and how we experience this physical reality with emotions. And so that third element of our emotions is what the book is about. I help people understand what it is, how to address it, and how it can be helpful in our reality. And that's what I'm all about, even though I'm still logical. What the hell am I feeling and what can I help people feel in order to find clarity?
Oftentimes, the way in which something is said will have a huge effect on whether or not somebody hears it. How do you translate this kind of information into a corporate environment that might find this to be a bit woo woo? And Jesus, he's from Sedona. Come on. What do you expect?
So I asked them to pick up a pen and paper and start to write down their problems, write down the potential logical solutions, and then write down the underlying emotions. And the best place people can practice this is at home. Our domestic partners are going to irritate us the most. And if they are cooperative and we say, hey, I want to work through this with you, I'm going to tell you about my challenges. I'm going to help. I want help from you. I want feedback. They're going to tell us how we irritate them. We're going to be able to hopefully find a compassionate way to tell them how we're irritated. And if we say, I want to improve, help me understand what I'm feeling about our relationship that is irritating. And if they have the right partner, it's a safe place to do it, because what am I going to lose? If I'm honest with my partner, it's going to lead to something better. If I'm honest with somebody at work right away, it may not lead to something better until I've dealt with my emotional challenges outside of the workplace. So whether it's a father, a son, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a cousin, our domestic partner, find somebody who you can start to work through this with, and things will be mirrored back to you. And you get the opportunity to look at, am I being the victim or am I being the tyrant? And what am I feeling? So that's the best environment, is outside of work with our family.
Very good. Randy, great conversation. This has really been a nice way to sort of start my day. Um, Aside from the book, how else can people reach you?
The fastest, easiest way is my website, randylyman.com. It's RandyLyman.com, all run together. They can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and other social media at I am Randy Lyman. The I am Randy Lyman is the one to follow. But on my website, I have links to my books, links to my workbook, to free offers, to tapping exercises that are free. I'm here to help spread the message that we can all have a better life. I'm not here to make money. Yeah, it's nice someday if I ever do. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because the material world has become boring. It's not necessarily fulfilling, and I don't need to make more money. I'm living a great life, and I want other people to find ways to live a better life. What buttons do they push? What levers do they pull to get the universe to respond to them in a positive way? That's what I'm all about. Go to my website.
You said earlier, before we started this conversation, that you were going to be moving to South Carolina. Is that
North
right?
Carolina is what I'm
North
looking at right
Carolina.
now, the East
Okay.
Coast, though.
And I said, well, why are you doing that? And he says, I just want to have that experience. Backing up the bus a little bit, you've been in Sedona for a while. What experience did you want in Sedona, and what did you get?
Okay, well, I moved here because my ex-wife talked me into it. And what I got was, I'll say this carefully, basically a beautiful 10 years of hell that helped me evolve.
Okay. Do you notice anything about Sedona aside from the relationship component, but just the land, that is conducive to your work that you are talking about today, versus having a different sort of, experience with the land in, say, New York City? What's different about Sedona?
I own a very nice large estate here, and so I have a lot of different areas of my property. Some of them I can feel vortexes. Everybody who spends time here says it's beautiful. But here's the thing. God is everywhere. And I don't necessarily have a better experience here in Sedona than I do anywhere else.
Okay.
And frankly, the places that irritate me the most give me the best opportunity for learning.
When my wife and I lived in Phoenix for several years, we would sometimes drive up to Sedona for the weekend. And, once you get off the 17, you take a left and you're heading in. And at some point, you're about ready to turn past a hill. And then all of the beauty and the pageantry of the Red Rocks become apparent. And when we would first go there, you're going to give me the picture of it right now. You little,
that's my backyard.
I know. I'm extremely envious of that wonderful view you have there. But what we noticed was, at least it's just our experience, is that Sedona was a magnifier of energy, that we noticed that if we were in a really positive, loving mood, it just sort of added some more energy behind it. If there was something that we were coming into Sedona with that was irritating the two of us, something that was going on with us individually, it accentuated that. So we would always stop the car and we go, all right, let's get ourselves grounded with each other. And, do we need to talk about anything? We're good. All right, now let's go into Sedona. And then we'd always find a kind of again, an accentuation of whatever we decided to intend. So it's a very special place where you're at.
So now it may be helping me with the positive, but my experience, not because Sedona is a negative place. If Sedona amplifies like you say it does,
right,
then I can say that it was able to amplify a lot of challenges for me that I'm glad I was able to experience and get through. So what you're saying, I'm not doubting it's true for you, and it may have been true for me, but I can't speak to it personally other than it's been an opportunity for big challenges and learning. So if somebody wants, here's what's more powerful than Sedona. Your description of you're entering Sedona. So you stopped and became present in the moment, and you set your intention. And what you did when you arrived to Sedona is more powerful than Sedona could ever be for anybody.
Good point. Good point. Randy, it's been a delight to talk to you. And I wish you well in North Carolina or wherever your travels may take you.
Thank you, Dean. This has been wonderful being on here with you.
If you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment to rate and review our show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It helps more people discover Leadervation and this kind of conversation. And if you're looking to strengthen leadership, culture, or team performance in your organization, you can learn more about working with me and Mission Facilitators International at mfileadership.com.